Hello and welcome to a very special episode of The Rebecca Saunders Show. We're at episode 52. Yep, we've made it to an entire year of podcasting. I want to thank all of my guests for coming on the show over the last year and for all of you for listening and watching if you're watching the video version of this podcast. When I start something, like to set myself goals, celebrate success, level up in every area of my life. And so I could think of no better time to share how I celebrate successes than to celebrate it and share it on the celebratory 1 year episode of The Rebecca Saunders Show. I have just got off the back of recording the episode that you would have heard 2 weeks ago with the fabulous Erica Kramer, Queen of Confidence, where I shared that I celebrate and plan my goals each and every year by putting Postit notes on bottles of champagne that I put in my fridge. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today in terms of planning those goals and setting yourself up for success and celebrating those milestones when you get to them. Because I reckon as entrepreneurs and as business owners, we do really badly at stopping and smelling the roses. We never take enough time to stop and sit and appreciate the things that we've actually achieved. We are always striving for that next thing, for the next thing that makes it even bigger and better. And we don't necessarily stop. So I wanted to just I guess the starting point for that for me has always been that I'm a visual person. I love to mood board. I love to have mantras around. I love little things around me that remind me the reason that I'm doing things. Examples of that are right now my necklaces say love and inspire. And they're two big words for me this year. My word for the year, as I pick a word every single year, my word for 2022 was Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is the Hindu goddess of abundance, prosperity, love, wealth, and beauty. And for me, I wanted it to be something royal and regal, but also spiritual and meaningful. And I wanted a year this year of love and ease and grace. And so I did that on my mood board. I put all the things on my mood board that I wanted to achieve in the year. And that mood board on this occasion I did on Canva. Historically, magazines, rip them all the pages out, stick them all together, have a nice little collage of images. But this time around I did exactly the same thing, but in Canva. So that image, that mood board, has become the background to all of my computer screens. I say that because it's on the computer screen in my laptop, it's on the computer screen of my computer in the office, and it's on my computer screen of my desktop at home. Every time I'm using a computer, I am reminded of the goals and the dreams that I want to achieve each and every day. And it's the premise of those dreams and being visual to me and being visible that I'm reminded of them each and every day. I'm reminded of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what I'm striving for. And so for the last, I'm going to say about 10 years, if not longer, to be honest, but 10 years doing the method that I do now, I have purchased at the beginning of the year a case of my favorite champagne. And the case of champagne that I purchase is Veuve Clicquot. And the reason I purchase Veuve Clicquot is manyfold. I love the flavor of it. I love the taste of it. And that obviously is a big winning factor. But the reason I really got into that brand is the history of the brand. And so I buy myself this case of champagne, and I'm reminded each and every time I drink the champagne of the story of the brand. And I hope I do this a good service in telling this story. But Madame Clicquot, who is known and credited for building the champagne house that we now all lovingly know as Veuve Clicquot, was made a widow at the age of 27. Her husband had started the winery, the champagne brand, the champagne house, and she, at the tender age of 27, was made a widow and took over the runnings of the business and the makings of the champagne. Now, along the way, there were so many doubters in terms of a woman couldn't do what she was intending to do. It was men's business. It had always been men's business. It was always going to be men's business. And she, as a feisty 27-year-old, was hell-bent on making this business something that she could be proud of, something her husband would be proud of, and something that her daughter and family would be proud of, and something that would have a legacy. And I researched the brand a little bit further, and the word Veuve is French for widow. So her name, Madame Clicquot's name, Widow Clicquot, is on each and every bottle of champagne. And each and every time I open a bottle of Veuve, I am reminded of the strength and the power and the courageousness of Madame Clicquot at the age of 27, striving to build the business and the brand of her dreams. And the legacy of that, to me, just tingles and gives me all of the feels. And so that is the brand of champagne that I choose to drink. On very, very, very special occasions, I'll buy the Grand Dame. And I'm probably saying all these words wrong for those who speak French and have the French I'm going to say twang, which is, again, the wrong word to use, but for the sake of the podcast and you listening and watching, you know exactly what I mean. I buy the fancy big bottles for very special occasions. So when we bought our house, when we were going to get married and our wedding had to be moved because of COVID, they're the big days that we celebrate with the big bottles of fancy. We're talking hundreds of dollars for a bottle of champagne. But Veuve, as a standard champagne of choice for me, is my standard of champagne choice. It is a case that I buy each and every year. I buy 6 bottles as a minimum, sometimes 12, but 6. I make sure they're in boxes, which if you're in Australia now is very hard to come by champagne in boxes. They're coming in like cases, just bottles. I get them in boxes, and the reason for the boxes is I write my big, crazy ass goals for the year. And I write it on a pink Post-it note, and I put the Post-it note on the top of the box, and I lie that box of champagne down on the bottom shelf of my fridge. And I start the year with a row of champagne bottles, which remind me each and every time I open the fridge of the goals that I am striving for. Examples of those goals have been hitting the 7-figure mark. The fact I could crack that in the middle of a pandemic, taking my business from 0 to 7 figures when the whole video industry around me was crumbling, mind-blowing, incredible. Popping that champagne was one of the best feelings ever. It's a huge celebration of success, of grit, and of sheer determination. Others were buying a house. So my husband and I had been looking for the perfect country house for a really, really, really long time. And we'd found out quite late of an evening, I'm going to say 9:30, 10 o'clock, that our offer on the house had been accepted. And it didn't matter what time of day it was, I was cracking open that bottle of champagne to celebrate. So we brought out the nice champagne glasses, we cracked that bottle of champagne, and we got to celebrate because we'd been looking at that goal and been striving to get that house for so long that just the popping of that champagne made me celebrate. And so the reason I'm sharing this with you around the reason why we should stop and think about the way we celebrate our successes is because as business owners and as entrepreneurs and as, women that strive to go further and further and further in what we want in our worlds and in our lives, and in the lives of the people around us and those that we love, is we don't stop enough and we don't celebrate the milestones that we are achieving each and every day. What we achieve in a day, most people wouldn't achieve in a month. It's one of those things that we are running at the speed of light, and we need to give ourselves permission to stop and to celebrate and to be excited. And so when this podcast drops, if you're listening to it on the date that it drops, which will be the 25th of October, 2022, we are 8 weeks away from Christmas, which means we are not very far off the end of 2022. And this is an exciting time to start planning for 2023. There are 3 things that I am going to be doing at the beginning of November. 4 things, actually. I'll do 4. And those 4 things will set me up for huge success in 2023. So those things are, I'll be picking my word for the year. Now that word for the year will be a theme that runs through my year. As I said, this year was Lakshmi, and it was all about abundance, love, prosperity, beauty, and that just rippled through everything I did. So pick a word that's going to be your theme that is going to ripple through everything in your year. The second thing I'm going to do is draw up my vision board. To start that process, I'm going to do something a little bit different this year, and I'm going to take last year's board and I'm going to switch out all the images that were in that board, and I'm going to switch them with the images of the things I've done this year. So I know, looking at my vision board that is above this computer, yes, if you are watching it as a video, you'll see that I'm not in my normal studio to record this podcast. I'm in New York City in a hotel room, and I have printed and laminated my vision board, and it is stuck on the wall. But I know that those images are going to be replaced with that beautiful desert image is going to be replaced with photos of me trekking the Larapinta in Australia. I know that the pictures of the island and the beach are going to be replaced with photos of me on Necker Island meeting Richard Branson this year. They're going to be replaced with pictures of me in Hawaii hanging out in a ridiculously bougie $30 million house on the beach, surrounded by fellow business owners wanting to level up. I know that the picture of the puppy that I put on that board is going to be replaced with a photo of my dog Bailey, because he came into our world this year. I know that the picture of a happy couple getting married is going to be replaced with a picture of me and my husband, probably with my family and our family and friends behind us in that shot, because we managed to get married at the beginning of the year with friends and family from all over the world that could finally come when Australia's borders opened. And so I know, looking at all of that, that I can sit and spend some time in reflection of, hell yeah, I did that. That happened. I made that happen. I know that I hit my financial targets because I have little charts on the wall that I tick things off of. So I'm going to redo that vision board. I'm also going to write out my list of 52 things. Now that sounds very vague if you haven't heard me talk about it before, but I write a list of 52 things I want to do every year. And this 52 things is because there are 52 Saturdays in a year. 52 Saturdays. Actually, when you put it down in quantities like that, it doesn't sound like a lot. And so what do I want to do with those 52 things? Now, these are personal things. These are not business things. These are personal things that I want to get done. And sometimes they're as simple as booking a dentist appointment. Sometimes I just need to be reminded that I need to do that adulting task. Otherwise, it won't get done. And other times, it's things like go on a hot air balloon, Go to an Italian cooking lesson was one of them. Ride in a helicopter. You know, all the things that you go, wouldn't it be cool if that could happen? Wouldn't it be cool if I could go to a Broadway show? Write down a list of 52 things that you want to do and tick them off. Tick them off as you go. It could be, if you've got kids, just spending a weekend away with the kids, spending a day off work, taking your son or daughter away for a mum or dad and kid play date for the day when they take them out of school and have a bit of fun. I don't know. It could be anything. Whatever's important to you, putting it in front of you on a list and making it visual reminds you both consciously and subconsciously of its importance, and reminds you to actually get it done. And then the fourth and final thing I'll do after doing all of that is I will go and buy that case of champagne, and I will write my Post-it notes of my big, scary ass goals, and I will put the Post-it notes on those bottles, and I will put them in the fridge. And I will make sure that I see those Post-it notes multiple times a day to remind me of those goals. And I know that when I open that bottle of champagne, that I am reminded of that legacy, I am reminded of my hard work, and I sure as hell am going to celebrate the successes that I'm achieving, the goals that I'm smashing, and the dream life that I'm living. And so my challenge to you listening to this podcast is, how are you going to celebrate your successes? How are you going to be able to be mindful of the goals that you set and not just write it in a notebook, put it in the cupboard and put it away? How are your goals and your dreams going to be at the forefront of your mind so that you make them a reality? I know that I'm living my absolute dream life. This podcast is being recorded from New York City. Last week I was in Hawaii, and next week I'm in Spain. I am living the most incredible life, running the most incredible business, and have the most incredible and supportive husband and family to enable me to do what I do. It's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. And there's going to be a heap more champagne being popped in the last 2 months of 2022, and a hell of a lot being popped in 2023. So I'm going to say cheers to the end of this episode, and I would love it if you would share with me the way that you celebrate and mark your landmark goals and smashing those targets that I know you're going to have for yourself, your life, and your business next year. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And I cannot wait to chink glasses to your